And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our manufacturing days powered by EIT Manufacturing. For our next session, the roundtable reverse corporate pitches with 3 major organizations. I'm very excited about that. If you don't know what reverse corporate pitches are, I'm pretty sure our host will explain that. And for that, I would like to welcome Laura Eck. Laura graduated in business and management and started her career as an investment analyst at the deep tech fund Apex Ventures. Since the beginning of 2020, she is the managing director of the Austrian Angel Investors Association. Thank you so much, Laura, for being with us and leading this exclusive panel.
Thank you, Johannes, and welcome everybody to today's reverse pitching session. Usually it's the startup who have to pitch to get funding, but today we have 4 exciting corporates here. Honestly, there's 3 corporates and you have 1 VC fund who are gonna pitch for you and tell you why you startups should partner with them, why, and also how you get in contact. So short about me, I'm leading Austria's biggest network for angel investors. So we support early stage companies when they are looking for investors, and we also help investors to get funding ready and also support the interest of investors in Austria. And now we're gonna welcome our 4 panelists. First, we have Lamin Ben Hamdane from Infineon. He's head of startup corporations, and he's connecting the most relevant startups to their businesses and to their operations.
Hello, everybody.
Next, we have Judith Pertl. She's heading the digital solutions and platforms in the area of Internet of Things and analytics at A1 Digital. Hi.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Next, we have Jan Borgstädt from Joint Capital. He's founding partner at the VC4 based in Berlin.
Hello from Berlin.
Last but not least, we have Jordan Janeczko. He is the CTO of the Global Client Innovation Team and a member of the Atos scientific community.
Hi, everybody. Looking forward to the panel discussion today.
So thank you all for being here and discussing what you offer for startups and also why they should get in contact with you. We will start with a little company introduction round that you're gonna hear further. What are the companies up to and what are they focused on? So let's start right away with Infineon. Lamin, can you tell us more what they're doing, what is your focus, and which startups are interesting for you and are also potential targets for cooperation?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Laura. Yeah, Infineon is one of the top 10 semiconductor companies globally. We have a lot of main markets. So automotive is one of them, but we are also in consumer electronics. We are in industrial applications like robotics, motor controls, and we are also in hardware security topics. And you see already by the breadth of markets that also this corresponds then to the breadth of topics where startups could be relevant for us. But I think in general, it's really there are 2 sides of startup corporations at Infineon. I would say the classical approach is that yes, startups could become our innovative suppliers for us to optimize internal processes, generally speaking, be it in procurement, be it in manufacturing. That's one side. The second area is more R&D focused. So there are startups that really enable us to build the next generation of semiconductors. For example, startups in the area of advanced materials could be relevant there. And then we have startup corporations driven by the business units themselves, who are responsible to develop, of course, their own markets for our products. And there we have so-called emerging applications defined internally, where we think, okay, these could be applications for our products, for semiconductors, that could grow in the future. And there we are interested to work with startups who are active in this application, who develop innovative system solutions, especially on the electronics side. And there we support them with our products, be it samples, be it tech advice, which is quite valuable. We give them insights into our future roadmap and provide them with products that are not yet on the market. In order also for us, to get an early understanding of the innovation in these new applications. So quite a breadth of or collaboration options, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Lamin. So we have on one side really early stage companies who can work together, and also on the other side later stage company who could become your suppliers.
Exactly, yeah.
And we will go deeper into the different programs you're running at the moment later. But next we will hear about A1. What's your focus, and also which kind of startups are interesting for you?
Okay, yes, thank you, Laura. So yes, A1 is a telecommunication company in Austria and Central Eastern Europe. And I myself actually come from a bit different side, so not directly from the startup campus, which is the startup program from A1, but I'm actually one of the people who benefits from this startup campus, because I'm heading the product management in the areas of Internet of Things and analytics. And this, of course, is an area where we're always looking for new innovative topics that we can use and work together with startups to then have very interesting and attractive products to sell to customers. So basically, what is A1 and the A1 Startup Campus looking for in startups? As you already said, Laura, we are more on the early stage investment. So we are looking for teams, people, first early stage companies with great ideas in the areas that we are present in. So what we're looking for is solution products that add to what we are already offering to our B2C and to our B2B customers. And in addition, the second topic is definitely topics that are interesting for us internally, so that we actually, as a company, become more innovative in our internal way of working. So this, I would say, are the two focus areas that we're looking for startups. So what does this mean? What startups are we really looking for? I would say we have startups in the digital service area a lot, also on the cloud side, and a lot of data-driven startups in general. As a telecommunication company, these are the areas that we are also active in looking for companies. So A1 founded the Startup Campus in 2011. And since then, actually, kind of our goal was to really identify startups where we can closely work together. So we have, and we will go to this a bit later, we have a variety on I would say, topics that we work on together. But for us, it's very important that it fits to our business and that we here can really also profit on the content side and not just on an investment side, for example, or offering infrastructure. So I would say that kind of sums up what we're doing. And yes, we will go into further steps into the next questions.
Thank you so much, Judith. I think we're already excited to also hear more insights about you and how you work together with startups, how like the whole process is set up, as you're the expert on this side. We will also hear more about this later. But next we go, we have Jordan from Atos explaining us what their focus is and what kind of startups they're working with already and also plan to do so in the future.
Excellent. Thanks, Laura. Thanks. And maybe as a nice contrast, as we were preparing for this discussion today, we sort of noticed that A1 has a slightly different approach than Atos does. And it's a little bit based on the kind of world that Atos is focusing on right now. We're a company that has about 100,000 employees worldwide. We make 10 billion euros worth of revenue. And we're an IT company that focuses on 4 major areas. Digitalization obviously is important, and IT companies are important for the role that any industry that any industry needs to take into account when they talk about digitalization, obviously, cloud computing, cybersecurity, and also sustainability. And these are the areas where we look to for startups to also support some of the activities that we're doing. Now, and again, thanks to EIT Manufacturing for coordinating today. Obviously, today we'll probably be talking a little bit about, the details of the manufacturing world. I didn't get to, unfortunately, see all of what Tim Cole was talking about this morning, but I thought the keynote speech of Tim Cole gave an excellent overview about some of the specific use cases that are important, some of the technologies that need to be fit into overall solutions, because one of the things that people forget very often and is in the front line of what Atos does as a systems integrator, is understanding how all of these technologies fit together in order for them to be a final solution that has a lot of business value for the customers that's trying to use it. And that is how we try and pull in startups. So we're not trying to focus on startups that are in the really early phases. What we try and do with startups that have already established a certain amount of capabilities, that have already, had local successes, and move them on to the next level of maturity. So we're able to pull them into our customer discussions at a more global level, bringing them that introduction into a larger customer base. And we're also able to actually say, okay, how can we integrate you into overall solutions, maybe fitting in between some of our portfolio activities and making sure that we've, again, got something that is consistent across an entire sub-industry. So we try and take, again, successful startups at a local level and bring them into that next level of internationalization. And we'll get into more details a little bit later in the discussion, but I think that's a good overview about how they fit into what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Jordan. So we already heard 2 contact points for early stage startups. EIT and Infineon offer services for you and things you can use there. And we already have 1 contact point for later stage startup at Atos. But now we also have a VC for as a panelist and founding partner of a VC for. And it's going to be excited what you offer for startups, or also how you support corporates in finding the right startups to work with.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Thanks for having me and join. Yeah, so we found a different way to work with corporates. We're not a corporate ourselves, but we had some corporate experience in the past. And we realized that if you have corporates investing in your startup, it might create some friction or some problems in the future. So we took a different approach. Basically, we invest as a pure financial investor. Joint Capital manages capital from family offices, entrepreneurs, and institutional investors. So we are usually the first institutional money in your company. We've done that 15 times now with the current fund, and we invest between €500,000 and €4 million in the first investment round. And then in the second step, actually often already during due diligence, we introduce you to a variety of potential customers. And that way we learn about the way you pitch, the way your product is received, and the questions that customers might have in the future when they want to buy your company, your product, maybe your company too later. Well, and we keep doing so after the investment. So we keep introducing you to potential customers in our network. This goes quite in a wide range. We're very much interested and in a very good position to help you in the industrial ecosystem. So if you have a software that helps industrial companies save money or make more money, then we're probably a really good partner. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah, thank you. So I think we have really different approaches on this panel, and I think this was also chosen on purpose. And now every time we do something, it's always about the why. So I'm also myself really interested, why do corporates work together with startups? I mean, it's also a lot of work to set up a good process. And we also had some more unsuccessful examples also in the past. So yeah, maybe you explain why you're doing this, where do you see the benefits for both sides, and how it's also working at the moment at your corporates. So maybe we start again with Lamin from Infineon.
Yes. So why do we work with startups? As I explained before, we have different ways of cooperating, and also the benefits there, of course, for us, from our perspective, are different. If I say in the area of startups as innovative suppliers, where we want to optimize internal processes, similar to A1, there, as I said, we are looking for more mature startups in order to increase the probability that we can scale globally. And use it in a productive environment. There, of course, the benefit for us is some kind of process improvement, cost at the end of the day, some cost savings. Yeah. If we work with startups on the R&D side, we want to develop our products faster and bring our own products to the markets faster by working with startups that have capabilities that we don't have internally. Yeah. If I talk about maybe one example, startups as suppliers. So one example is the German AI startup Luminovo, that, for example, they helped us to apply AI in the area of chip verification. So basically, we gain speed in verifying whether the chips are functional okay. Yeah, so they helped us to do that. As we didn't have capabilities, especially in AI in this area, and we learned a lot about this with this operation. And then basically the last area is startups that work with us on the business side with our business lines, business units, where the startups develop innovative systems in these new emerging applications that will become important markets for semiconductors and for our products. And there we want to be prepared. Yeah, we want to learn what are the innovations on system level, what are the views in terms of markets and trends, and what are how do our current products fit into this new application. So, for example, a new application could be the area of electric vehicle charging or fast electric vehicle charging. Another one is the area of wearables that are growing bigger and bigger, including hearables and all the subcategories. So these are new important market for us, and we want to basically get early insights and derive, are there any impacts on our product roadmap, maybe how well do our products fit. In case the startup develops more software that is complementary to our hardware products, then it's more a go-to-market partnership with the goal to offer a more complete solution to our customers. So we usually, as the hardware supplier, with the semiconductor, the sensors, the microcontrollers, and the startups, offering an attractive partner ecosystem consisting of software. Yeah. So in a nutshell, this is the range of benefits that we have. An example here where we worked with startups also in Austria is Tributech, that have been mentioned, where we work with them in the area of hardware security and data security. Another one that I can add is the Austrian startup Volterio. They develop a EV charging robot for electric vehicles that drives under your car. And we basically work with them in the area of sensors to position the robot under the car correctly.
Yeah, really interesting. As we got a question from the audience, are you also interested in investments, corporations with prototyping and R&D startups? I think you already answered it. If I got it right, it's a yes.
Yeah, but we are not a corporate venturing arm, that I have to say. Yeah, we are really focused on startups from a corporation perspective. So any startup that could become long-term our customer, our go-to-market partner, or our supplier. Yeah.
Thank you, Lamin. Let's hear next about E1. Judith, how is your experience when you work together with startups? What benefits do you experience, and also what benefits are the startups having? Or if you talk to them, what are they telling you?
Yes, so I think from our side, it's basically three things. So the first thing is definitely identifying new products and solutions that we can actually bring to the market together with the startups. So as A1, we see it as an innovative company, and for us, that is very important that we actually bring innovative solutions also to our customers. We have quite a wide customer base, and therefore this is something that is definitely one of the goals why we have set up the Startup Campus to identify interesting solutions in the areas as mentioned before. And the second thing is really about this kind of being innovative in internal processes and kind of making sure that we identify startups that can support us to become more, for example, efficient in internal processes, no? Or also thinking about topics like customer journey. So one example is our latest startup, Verify. They support us in becoming more digital in the customer journey in context of invoicing. So this is something where we can really offer to the customers something that brings value to them, and in addition is also interesting from our side. And I think the third topic not to underestimate is working together with startups. And as I mentioned before, for us, it's really important that there's a close cooperation between the startups and people, employees, experts in our company. So if we have this close cooperation, what we see is that we can bring some of kind of the startup spirit into the company. So this is also culture-wise, I think, very important. You know, if you see, or if you work together with a startup, you maybe see that things, processes, the way you work are totally different to what you're used to. So this is also, I think, a third topic, the culture itself, where we also profit a lot from working together with these startups. And if we go to the side of, so why is it beneficial for startups to work with us? I think as we are kind of keeping it close to our business, we have this possibility of really supporting the startups. So, and that's also the reason why we don't want to, onboard startups that we don't see kind of something that we could work together on, either on the product itself, where maybe it makes sense to work together, or on the sales side, where maybe there's a kind of a possibility to do something together. So I think this is one of the kind of beneficial things for startups, having a big company with a wide variety of possible dots where you can connect to. And really making sure when we onboard a startup that those startups will really get to the experts, get to kind of the sales distribution channels that they need, by also giving them an office space. I mean, it sounds trivial, but it's something that also connects them to A1. So I think that's kind of where I would see the benefit for startups working with us together. And maybe just one last point, also coming from the side that I explained in the beginning. So myself, who is a benefit, so where I benefit a lot from working with startups, is that what we do is if someone, as a startup, comes to our innovation department, they will automatically connect the startup with us from if it's something in our area, so that we kind of have a first check and we actually discuss with the startup, is this a technology, is this a solution that could be interesting and could fit to A1. So we're very fast in kind of here really connecting the experts with the experts, which I think is also quite interesting for startups.
Thank you so much, Judith. How is the whole thing looking at Atos? Jordan, can you go deeper in why should startup work together with you, and what are the benefits for both sides?
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of interesting points about how large companies cooperate with startups. And I do think that what was, by the way, just mentioned before, that idea of, that startup mentality, that's obviously definitely positive. It's definitely excellent. But let me sort of take a slightly opposite point of view, because as I mentioned, some of what we try and do is make sure that we identify successful local players and bring them to the next level of maturity. Sometimes that's because as a large company, a lot of our customers are also large companies. They make billions of euros of revenues a year. And sometimes they are hesitant about signing a contract with a startup because they're either worried about their own financial sustainability, they don't know how long that startup is going to be in existence, and they're looking for a company like Atos to do the due diligence, to make sure that we have a very positive view and that we can integrate them not only for the solution that the startup has, but taking a broader view about the other systems and processes that our customers have, and making sure that those other parts that usually can't be covered by one small startup because things are so complicated these days. That's one of the reasons they look to us to help bring in, identify suitable startups and make sure that we have a little bit of skin in the game for saying, this is how all of these things fit together. We've done enough work with the startup to understand why we think it's a safe bet for you. And so I do think that's one thing to keep in mind. One of the things that is being looked for by large international companies is a little bit of that sustainability and a little bit of the risk sharing that becomes important. Again, if you have a great point solution for how to improve the efficiency on the shop floor, maybe you don't have the SAP skill sets to integrate that into, for example, either warehouse management or ERP systems. There's a whole bunch of other things that actually get into the idea of how do I make that business value coming out of this one specific focal point of the startup. And so that's, I think, some of that synergies that you get between startups and large companies. I think the other thing worth mentioning is that, and by the way, if you are the CEO of a startup and everything, congratulations. I'm sure these are exciting times right now. There's a whole bunch of things going on. It is important from our point of view that you really focus on what your real benefits are, that you have this way of saying, okay, I bring to you the expertise in this one specific area, and I explain to not only your customers, but also to Atos, what those specific benefits are, and have a very clear and concise way of explaining what it is that you bring to the overall value. Because if you think about the way that things are changing right now, they are quite specific. And I think a company like Atos, or at least my company, I think does a very good job at big scale innovation, understanding how cloud computing needs cybersecurity, how that fits into sustainability activities going on right now. We make high performance computers, we can maintain them, we can build them, we can operate them. But everywhere you go in specific sub-industries, you see a whole bunch of these specific niche capabilities, and it's too much for any one company to cover. And so being able to take advantage of a startup that says, I know this area, I've got the expertise, I've proven that it works, and now I can offer that and understand how that fits into the broader international spectrum. I think that's, again, where the benefits exist between startups and large companies like ourselves to integrate them into overall solutions.
Thank you, Jordan. I think you made a really important point for all startups out there. If you approach corporates, really position you and tell them why they need you and which specific solution can you provide them and how can you help them really to improve their main business, because I think that's what it's all about. And we've heard a lot of different kind of benefits for both sides, but I think what's also really important is, and at one point you will need funding, and if you need funding, traction and also proof of concepts are really important. So if you work with a corporate, it's also easier to get private capital and to get investors on board because you're already having your first customer, you're having your first contacts, your network. So I think that's also really relevant point. And yeah, Jan, how is the whole thing looking from a VC perspective? Does it make a difference for you if a startup who is applying for funding is already working with a corporate? And what are the benefits you experience when you connected startups with bigger corporations?
Yeah, I think your observation is right. It makes it a lot easier for an investor to judge if the software is ready for the market. Yeah, if you had a POC or project with a large corporate. Yeah, in the past, this was always very difficult. Yeah, because there were no people in these corporates, as my fellow panelists here. Like 10 years ago, you had to work your way through the corporate structures, and there were really no people there was really nobody interested, because it basically made their lives a bit more difficult, and they were rather on the side of saying no than yes, I'm interested, because they were not incentivized, to be open for startups. And I think that has changed, and that is obviously great for us on the venture capital side, because we can speak to these clients and ask questions. So what were the difficulties? How did how did you work with the team? How responsive was the team? What are your plans in the future? Was this a one-time project, or will you be a constant customer in the future? Do you have plans to roll out in your whole organization? Have you mentioned this to colleagues? Have you mentioned it to competitors? So these are the questions we're able to ask. And without early customers from the corporate side, we would just not have that. And corporates are also not easy customers. So if you get one of them on board, that is definitely a seal of quality that you can stick to your pitch deck. It also helps you attract other customers. So not only getting venture capitalists on board, to have what we call logo porn. If you have great logos in your deck, it does attract also other buyers. And so, out of 2, you quickly make 3, and then you're on a roll. So I would encourage everybody to reach out to these lovely people whose job it is to find you the right contact in their organization. And this simply, I think even 5 years ago, we were not experiencing such a great offering.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Adding logos from well-known companies is always a real benefit. If your early stage is all about proof of concept, getting early customers in. Later stage, if you want to at one point sell your companies or make an exit, it's even more important. So I think there are a lot of different reasons for you at all different stages to consider to work together with companies. And Jordan, you want to add to these points?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. I wanted to pick up on something that Jan said about sometimes big companies are hard to work with, which is obviously true. Judith pointed out that it's nice to get that startup mentality, but sometimes it's also frustrating on both sides because my favorite example is sometimes if you're working with a corporate, how long it takes to get a press release approved. And from a startup point of view, that might take 24 hours. And from the point of view of a corporate, that has to go through the entire chain of your marketing and your press relations. And it might take weeks and weeks and weeks, where the startup doesn't exactly understand, why is this taking so long? And from our point of view, this is exactly what our customers would expect. And sort of some of the benefits that we have from talking with startups and understanding what the cultural differences are, is sometimes also, however, that we teach the startups what are things that take a little longer based on working with a manufacturing company, or we also work with financial services companies. We've got about 10 major different markets that we're involved in, and some of the expertise we bring is how these different markets have different speeds based on either the type of business that they do or the type of investments that need to take place up front. I do just want to point out that, once you transition into working with corporates, you understand that sometimes that speed that you have as a startup is I don't want to say a disadvantage, but it's something that doesn't match with the timeframes of the processes that go on the corporate side. So I think one thing to keep in mind when you are a startup is you need to be wise about the way that you sort of self-select how you invest your own limited resources and where you think you can best bring the advantage without burning too much effort into understanding, or burn too much effort for something that is just going to take 6 weeks, no matter what you do. You can't do anything to speed it up. You just have to say, okay, I need to limit my resource investment right now because the other world needs to make their decisions in their own time frame.
Yeah, I think this is also a relevant point to add, because if you are in a B2B sector and if you want to sell to corporates, you really need to consider this. There is no fast track usually, and then you can be happy that you don't have B2G sales, so it takes even longer. And Judith, I think you will also want to add something to this point, working together with corporates.
Yes, I think I just want to add on this point what Jordan and also Jan mentioned was about where do those startups really profit, I think, from working with corporates, is also especially on the sales side, right? Because understanding B2B, or as you said, Lara, B2G sales processes, sales cycles is something that is, big corporates understand, especially if they're active in this area. And here I think it's very, so next to, the network that you maybe get through the corporate and so on, I think really this expertise is something that should not be underestimated in this area that you can get by working together with big corporates. I think this sometimes is a bit underestimated because you always think of, the network you get and the people you meet, but actually also thinking of what kind of capabilities do corporates have that I as a startup, I don't have, is something I think that should be considered when thinking about who do I want to work with as a startup.
Yeah, I think this is super relevant, and it's also important maybe to build up your own sales funnel, have more corporates at the same time approaching them, because as we heard, it takes long, but this is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just how it is. And I think you can really make the best out of it if, as we also just heard, know how much resources you put into the process and also have different alternatives. And yeah, maybe we're going deeper into the benefits for early stage startups. So let's consider, we have an early stage startup here who has just maybe got the MVP ready, has no customers, has no revenues, but wants to do a proof of concept with a big corporate. So Lamin, what would you advise? How should we contact you? What should we deliver? What should we show you? What's the best way to get into Infineon?
I think if you're, especially as an early stage startup, our focus is really on, I would say, hardware startups that develop innovative solutions in this emerging applications that I mentioned before. I mean, the best way, of course, always to approach us is to go via our webpage, the Innovator program. We call it Innovator, our startup activities. So there's a webpage that you can find. You can also apply, and you can also give your first thoughts about synergies that you see with Infineon, or the motivation from the startup side, why they would like to connect with Infineon. Basically what we discussed before, what's the value proposition, where are the synergies, and that helps a team like us to then judge whether this could be relevant and who are the right stakeholders. Yeah. So if you're an early stage startup, hardware startups especially, still in the prototyping phase, and you feel that you could benefit from the technical expertise in the first step of Infineon, to support you on the electronics side with our know-how. And then in a later stage also, of course, we will, once we have first demonstrators, or the startup has developed the first demonstrators, we are also committed to use our marketing power globally to promote the startup solution. Yeah. So an example could be we go to some trade fairs like Electronica or CES in Las Vegas, where we anyway have a booth, and there we regularly, in order to showcase also the capabilities of our products, we bring the demonstrators of startups to basically show a concrete example how this works, how our products perform, and with that we promote the startups. As has been mentioned before, once we are in that phase, we have completed the first demonstrator, we act also as a reference. We basically add credibility to the startups. They are allowed to use in certain cases our Infineon logo, or they are supported by Infineon. They can share this to basically get credibility also with the seed investors, with the Series A investors. So that's how we work with especially the early stage startups.
Mm-hmm. So again, for all startups out there, really be clear what you offer, where you see synergies, and why Infineon should work with you. I think it's just important to be clear about it. Don't overcomplicate it, and just try to apply. Judith, what should I do if I'm a startup and I want to be part of the EIT Startup Campus? How do I get a spot there? How can I even maybe get a spot in the office?
Yes, so basically we have a clear kind of program for startups, which has two possibilities to connect and work with us together. So there's the membership at the A1 Startup Campus. And then we also have A1 partner startups that where the cooperation is a bit more loose than on the first part. So if you want to become part of the A1 Startup Campus, and I will shortly explain what this means, then basically it's very easy. Just apply via the website. So it's a1startup.net. You can also find all the respective people who are working there. You can contact them directly, talk to them, ask questions, or contact me. Here we have a clear kind of process, an application process, how startups can become part of the campus. And I think as I said, and we are in the early stage investment, we kind of kick it off by offering the startups infrastructure. So office space where they actually can, start working together. We do hope this will become more and more now that people will go back to the office, but really working together on their ideas. Infrastructure like cloud, but also simple internet, tablets, whatever is needed to actually be able to work on the ideas. So that's kind of the first part that we are offering. The second, I would say, is the whole topic of internal expertise from A1, where you have access. So we have kind of 40 dedicated experts who you can contact in A1. So you really get know-how, discussion possibilities in various fields with these experts. And then the third, as I already mentioned, is kind of this outward going thing. So sales channels, marketing possibilities, where it's all about then really bringing the product to the market, the solution to the market, and where we have quite a wide network as well in the B2B as in the B2C area. And last but not least, there's also the possibility of investment. So that's kind of our whole package that we offer to these members. The second possibility is the A1 partner, and this is more focused on the distribution part, so on the sales part. So here it's not about the office space and so on, but really about how can the startup sell its solution on the market. And basically that's it. So I think anyone who's interested and anyone who feels like, yes, I have a solution that would fit into the A1 portfolio and I feel like I could benefit from it, I would totally encourage apply, and we're really looking forward to applications.
Yeah, so I think we got a whole one-stop shop basically for startup at the EIT Startup Campus. So yeah, really check out the website and also apply later on if you fit to A1. Yeah, coming to Atos and also more to later stage startups. So consider again, we have a startup already has some revenues. We have been on the market maybe 2 to 3 years, having our first customers. Everything is running well, but now we really want to scale up. And we're also looking for like larger customers who are going to sell our products and maybe also working together with us. So Jordan, if I would approach you, what would you tell me and how could we work together?
Yeah, so thanks, but I would be interested in hearing from Jan and some of the things that the VC money can do to actually move things to the level that we're looking for. Let me just give a brief overview of what a company should be doing if they've had that maturity that I was discussing before, and they're confident that they're ready to go to the next stage. So one of the things that we've got on our Atos.net homepage, and I've got it here in front of me, is a Scalar program, and that Scalar program again focuses on industry-specific startups in the area today. Mostly manufacturing, obviously, is our focus, but again, we've got public sector, financial services, media, telco. We do a whole bunch of different specific industries. We're looking at digitalization, cybersecurity, also decarbonization and sustainability. If you fit in one of those areas, and you've got that level of maturity, just sign up to our Scalar program. You should probably mention EIT Manufacturing and my name and just sort of say where you heard about this and sort of give that basic information. We are right now, I just talked with my global team today, we're right now going through that next expansion phase. We've got a due diligence phase, we've got a jury selection for who we bring into that more that group that gets the tighter attention. As I was mentioning before, we've got dozens of customer facilities where we have dedicated to innovation workshops, and we bring you into that discussion with our customers. We get you involved with solution architects that understand how that fits into an overall structure, the sales teams that are able to actually transition this into an actual customer pitch. We've got, again, sub-industry expertise that allow our subject matter experts to better understand what we would be doing together with specific customers, or having a go-to-market that fits exactly the area that matches your expertise and what we need from a solution point of view. So I think there's a lot of opportunities, and again, either through our local teams. Atos is active in over 70 countries right now, so probably in yours, and at that global level with that Atos Scalar team, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I think adding as a reference that you were part of this panel will definitely help you. So really consider this. And Jan, maybe can you tell us how we get these early stage companies to a stage where Atos can work with them? So I think there is like a missing spot in between where you can probably help out.
Yeah, there might be not, as Jordan mentioned, they need to be able to manage large projects, I believe, or be part of a project. And that means you need to have dedicated resources. So I guess this startup will have minimum 50 people, I guess. So in order to get there, usually you need 2 rounds of financing. And then all things need to work well. So it might not just be join that is needed, but there might be another follow-on investor, and that is something. If you due diligence your investors, you should first of all ask them, so what kind of introductions, what kind of help can you offer me to customers, as I already mentioned, but also what kind of track record do you have in attracting additional capital to your portfolio companies in order to get into the spheres that the Jordans of this world would like to see. You will probably need another a second investor. So you should definitely ask, so what are your relationships? Can I talk to your founders? How have they experienced your help in getting more financing? So I encourage everyone who's listening to due diligence their investors. Do not just go for brand names or somebody told me that they are great, etc. There are many more VC funds out there now. They all differ, and they need to differentiate themselves. And so it's worthwhile your time in looking for the right one. Build a bit of competition, and then let them pitch you. I think this will be, for really good startups, will be more and more easier to ask more from their investors because they're simply more than they used to be.
Yeah, I think that's also the reason why we are sitting here and you have to pitch, because startups can actually choose. They can choose their corporate partners, and they can choose, of course, their investors, and they also should, because it's a long-term relationship for both sides. And I think it's always really important to do research and to find the right partner. Better invest more time before say no too often, and instead of saying yes too early. And yeah, I think that's a good point. Finding a VC fund who's also supporting your journey, have the right contacts. And I think if somebody would approach Join, you can really tell them, hey, we have great contacts to corporates. We can help you out with this.
Maybe I can add to that quickly, because as I said in the beginning, we work with later stage startups a lot when it comes to solutions that we can use internally to optimize our processes. And there, I think one criteria is definitely that we look who has the startup already gathered some investors, because I mean that's usually for us one sign of quality, or one because then the investor already, someone did the due diligence. We don't have to do it on our own completely. And someone has trusted the startup enough to invest millions of euros or €1 million. So that's for us definitely one sign of quality where we basically that we take into account.
Yeah, I think here we have a really nice symbiosis out of like corporates and out of investors, because they're both for each other a quality sign. So I think you also need to have the right strategy in whom you approach first and which logos you put on your pitch deck to convince the other side. And yeah, now we're already coming to an end. We have 10 minutes left, and I think now it's a great time to hear about your current calls for startups. We've already heard something in our discussion, but maybe to sum it up a little bit, which current accelerators, programs, competitions are you running at the moment? Maybe we start with you, Lamin.
Yeah. So basically, I would say the Innovator program, I would not qualify it or not say that this is an incubator or accelerator, as we don't really provide education or a structured program and presentations. It's really, the Innovator program is really about this connect of the startup directly with someone in the business who has an interest, and as such also we don't have any batches or timelines when a startup can apply to work with us. So we are basically open all year round. We sometimes work with challenges, especially in the manufacturing area. And in this case, there is one challenge that is actually running, and we do it together with our partner Linde. So Linde has a very nice platform where they publish internal challenges, but also in this case, our challenge. It's called Linde Shortcut. And there we have a running challenge about, because we are looking for solutions to basically predict lead times in our chip factories. So if there's a startup who can provide a solution to this challenge, have a look and apply. So that's actually running. But yeah, as I said, it's really important. So we as such, in the Innovator team, we are not really running projects on our own in the so-called ivory tower, but it's really about this direct connection to the business. And I think that's also the value that the startup is looking for, and it gives value in the long term for the startup.
So the direct connection to your business. Mm-hmm. We have here at Infineon, what are you running at the moment at A1? We heard we can already apply for the A1 Startup Campus. Anything else? Any competitions right now?
No, so basically, we're also all year open, so you can always apply to the Startup Campus. Basically, the program is kind of set up for around 3 years, so that's the idea. We're looking for startups who will, also commit themselves for a certain amount of time, and then, of course, from that onwards, after those 3 years, there are possibilities of prolongment in the cooperation. Maybe one nice example, just to get an idea how we work together, is Infineon. So Infineon joined us 2017. This is like a spin-off from the No Center from the University of Technology in Graz. And they joined us 2017, and there was a very close cooperation between A1 and Infineon on also the solution side, because here also anonymous cellular data is used for the product itself. And then also on the sales side. So interestingly, I actually just in the morning, we just had a kind of training or pitch for salespeople on some of the solutions. And one of them, for example, was Infineon. And actually Infineon was the majority stake was taken over by A1 beginning of this year. So you can see kind of how long this cooperation has been going on, and also what possibilities or possible outcomes there are, even with like a bigger investment from the A1 side. So yes, applications are open, and we are always looking for interesting startups to apply.
Yeah, sounds exciting. At Atos, what do you offer at the moment?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. So at a local level, we also are sort of open all year round, and you can contact our local organization to understand what you can do in that area. From a global perspective with Scalar, we pretty much have 1 to 2 uptake rounds a year, because we do try and, we go through an actual jury selection phase. I was in the jury last year. We had some real exciting startups that we had to choose from, and the winners of those groups really get put into a lot of the marketing activities that we're doing. Like I'm saying, we try and make sure that our global organization pays attention to these startups and give them that special relationship that is, in our case, or at least from our experience, necessary to actually bring them into some of these large corporate accounts. So last year we had a group that was dealing with focusing on the management of big data for autonomous vehicles. We had one, Clarity is the name of the company, that one in the cybersecurity area that's very manufacturing related. It deals with IT, OT security, being able to integrate that into a security operations center that Atos manages for our customers. We've got another startup in the green sustainable area that deals with, I really love this. I never thought of this. I have a computer science background, and they are able to optimize code to make it energy efficient. So I think it's an excellent idea about how you can take something that is very horizontal and generic and sort of say, I can apply this in a specific area where people weren't expecting it. And that's, I think, a good example of that sort of niche area where something pops up and you say, as an Atos, I know exactly where I'd put that in, and it would be dozens of places. But there's a whole bunch of things that you can do in order to expand that exciting idea and put it into a whole bunch of different projects and activities going on. So again, once or twice a year, we have our global uptake session. We've got a lot of structure around that in order to do, again, the due diligence that I was mentioning before. And I think that that's, if you're at that level of maturity, that's probably the most exciting thing that you can do from a relationship point of view.
Thank you. Also sounds exciting if you want to accelerate your idea, putting it on a higher level. And yeah, at Joint Capital, how do I get in contact with you? And yeah, maybe you tell us more.
So we're open for
repeat
business.
one more time, and what kind of startups you're looking for, that we also had it in the wrap-up round.
Yeah, sure, Laura. So we're open as the other 24/7. Just send an email to jan@join.capital. So instead of .com.capital, that's my email address. Don't tell anyone. I tell you, ideally, you find someone else who knows a partner at a VC firm personally to make an introduction. That's the best way to approach a VC. So even if you have my email address and you found it somewhere in a database, it's not as powerful as if you have someone else recommend you that I know personally. There are a couple of reasons for that, but the main reason is that it gets more attention from me. So you're processed quicker inside of our deal flow. I think I speak for many other VCs, not just for myself, but for me, that's very true. And secondly, the person that recommends you is kind of like a filter, and it's a quality check. So they would not recommend you if they would not feel strongly about you and your product. So that is a signal of quality to me, and that also gets a higher priority in our work list, and we're quite busy, as everybody is currently, of course. What are we looking for? We're looking for startups that do software. We don't do any hardware investments. Secondly, most important filter is B2B. We only invest in B2B business models. So if you do B2C, then please do not write to me, because it would be a waste of your time. So only B2B. And then third, we only invest in companies that are based in Europe. I always say we're an EasyJet fund. Maybe that was before Corona, but basically I was saying that we would invest everywhere where EasyJet flies to, except Israel. Because we like to go there in the morning and go back at night if necessary, and so that fits our strategy. So software, B2B in Europe, early stage, meaning you have a product, you have a team, you have a couple of clients, ideally one of my dear colleagues here, and then you're looking for money to expand your sales organizations, then you should come and speak to Joy. That's it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we already, time is up. We are at the end of our panel. I think it was really powerful to hear your stories, to hear when startups should approach you, why, and also how they can do so. So I think at any stage you are, there is the right corporate partner for you. There is the right funding partner for you. There just has to be a match from both sides. And I think check out their websites and check out all the programs. I think there is way more information on there if you're interested. And yeah, thank you so much to our panelists today and for your time. And yeah, well, thank you to the audience for listening in. And yeah, hopefully see you all soon.
Thank you, Laura, for this interesting deep dive into corporate requirements and how they are working with startups and scale-ups. Thank you for leading us with this exclusive panel.